Welcome to the Stories Told podcast. This is episode 123. Real Friends. This is the Stories Told podcast. Two authors talking about stories in movies, TV, and of course, books.
I'm Michael Grayford. I write action-adventure stories in fantasy and sci-fi worlds, sometimes for younger readers and sometimes for adults. And I try to always inject at least a little bit of humor.
And I am author E.W. Barnes, and I write action-adventure, time travel novels, and space opera science fiction. Thousands of years, thousands of worlds. But be forewarned, beyond here, there will be spoilers. Are you ready for the adventure? Let's begin. Welcome back to the Stories Told podcast. I'm author E.W. Barnes, and with me is author Michael Grayford. And today we're talking about the story told in the comedy series Ghosts. How are you doing today, Mike?
Muy bien, gracias. How are you?
Bueno, I'm doing well too. Thank
Excellent.
you. And what's new in your writing world?
New in writing world. Let's see. Well, I've still been thinking about some stuff for my epic fantasy story. And I also thought of a couple good plot points and character development ideas for Zara 3. So I feel like that's moving forward again, if still slowly, but it is back in progress, which is nice. And
Very good.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at. What about you?
You know, I'm in a little bit of a holding pattern right now. As we've talked about, I'm finishing up the work of the financial stuff, which is, if anyone who's run a small business, you have to track all the statements and track all the receipts. And I like to organize them in a way so that when the time comes to give it to our CPA, it's all the way the CPA likes it to be. So, just getting it all in place and doing all that. So I've been really just spending my time focusing on that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's always super fun.
Yeah. And it just takes time and energy just to sit down and slowly go through everything. And sometimes there are purchases made online that don't necessarily get receipts. So then I have to go back online and track them down and print them off so that I have them, the hard copies in case anyone ever asks. Let's see your receipts.
Oh, yeah. No, I gave up on hard copies a long time ago. I just keep it on digitally.
Oh, that's smart. I have, a whole Expando file full of hard copies.
Yeah.
So, and I'm also back to Ubering for school. So that takes 2 to 3 hours a day, depending on the traffic and, what's going on. So that's chewing up time. But I do have a plan. I'm going to get back into the Adventures of the Empyrean Guard very soon this month and finish the editing and then start with Umbra. So that it's kind of exciting because I gave myself, this week off, not even worry about it.
Yeah.
And my brain is still going, let's add this, let's do that. And don't forget this. So I'm like, rapidly making notes or sticking them in the file or whatever I need to do. So it's nice that my brain is still thinking about the stories and wanting to continue to work on them. That's a cool feeling.
Yeah, I'm in a different position now with the Zara series because I'm thinking it's probably going to be 4 books is kind of what I'm planning.
Okay.
So the story will be wrapped up in book 4. So as I'm working on 3, I'm also coming up with ideas for the 4th book. So when I have an idea, I'm like, okay, so should that go in book 3 or should that go in book 4?
Yeah.
And kind of like, normally I would just say, okay, everything I think of goes in this book pretty much. So yeah, I kind of have to balance that now too. And I want to have at least a good outline for book 4 before I start writing book 3.
Yeah.
So that I know that they connect together well.
Yeah. And plotting out for a series is different than plotting out for an individual novel, which is different than plotting out a specific chapter. It's, it requires different parts of your brain to really think about all that.
Yep. It'll be an interesting. This is my first time doing more than one book. My epic fantasy series, I'm going to have to do that for sure because there's going to be a lot of books and sort of sectioned off into groups of stories. So I want to make sure everything is connected overall. So I have an idea of where it goes.
Yeah.
After probably like a trilogy and then other books after that. So yeah, that's going to be a challenge.
I'm excited for you. That's an exciting journey.
Yeah, that'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. So let's talk about what interesting stories that you have come across lately in books, movies, or television?
I watched the final season of the TV show Upload
Uh-huh.
on Amazon Prime Video, which is a series about a guy who dies, but his consciousness gets uploaded into
Yeah, you
a
mentioned this
virtual
series.
world.
Yeah.
Yeah, a while ago, and they finally released the final season, which is pretty cool. It's sort of a kind of comedy and drama also. It becomes more drama, I'd say, after the first season, but still, I mean, still kind of mostly the same tone. Yeah, I thought it was for the most part, I thought it was a fairly satisfying wrap up of the series.
Okay.
And it's nice when a series with an ongoing story actually has an ending.
Yeah.
So many times you watch a series and it's like the show just gets canceled and you're like, well, how does it end? Where was it going?
Yeah.
It's nice. It's nice just having the ending, and I thought they did a fairly good job of wrapping things up. So that was nice. And then also was I watching or reading? I guess I'm reading the story that we'll be discussing in a bit, not today, but in a week or two or three or whatever it is. Other than that, yeah, that's what I came across.
Okay.
How about you?
Not much. I am still reading the third book in the Stormlight Archive series. I'm almost done. I'm at the exciting climax. And Brandon Sanderson tends to make these climaxes, multi-scene perspective. So you're with one character and then another character and then another character and another character, and he's got these little scenes that are only like 500 words, and then you move on to the next character and move on to the next character. So try to keep the pace really quick
Yeah.
as you're moving around from viewpoint to viewpoint to viewpoint as this exciting conclusion unfolds. So that's where I am right now, just moving from one character to the other as the bad guys are being combated. And then also reading The Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky, which we're going to be talking about here in a few weeks, as you pointed out. So I've been reading that a little bit. And we're also going to be talking about Foundation. So I'm going to start watching that here soon because we're going to be talking about that in a couple of weeks. So yeah, that's what's been going on here. Not much in the way of consumption, but boy, there's a lot of consumption in the future, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Are you ready to talk about ghosts?
Yeah, let's talk ghosts.
Today we're talking about the story told in the comedy TV series Ghosts. We're getting a head start on spooky season. And I'm going to read the summary that comes up when you type ghosts on Google. Samantha, a cheerful freelance journalist, and Jay, an up-and-coming chef from the city, throw both caution and money to the wind when they decide to convert a huge rundown country estate they inherited into a bed and breakfast, only to find it's inhabited by the many spirits of deceased residents. The departed souls are a close-knit, eclectic group that includes a saucy Prohibition-era lounge singer, a pompous 1700s militiaman, a 60s hippie fond of hallucinogens, and an overly upbeat 80s scout troop leader. If the spirits were anxious about the commotion a renovation and B&B will create in their home, it's nothing compared to when they realize Samantha is the first live person who can see and hear them. Did you enjoy this series?
Yeah, I love ghosts. I think it's really fun. I think before we talk about it, even though it's called Ghosts and it's about ghosts, it's not really like a spooky show. It's definitely comedy. So anyone who's interested in it from that perspective. But yeah, it's very fun. I will say it took me like an episode or two to get into it. I thought the first episode just kind of was like, it was amusing, but didn't really grab me that much. And then it started very quickly becoming entertaining and I couldn't stop watching. Yeah, I really like this show. I think I'm looking forward to the next season. I don't know when that is. I think the last season came out this year. So
it's premiering on October 16th. And as I understand it, this is the last season. So it's going to be a 5-season series.
Oh, okay. Wow. All right. Yeah, I'll miss this show when it's gone. I will say that. All of the characters are great. I think they did such a good job in terms of writing them. Obviously, each actor brings something to the role to help really set that character apart. But it's written that way. So I think it starts with the writing and they did a good job with it. I really like even the main protagonists, Sam and Jay, who are living who move into this place and are trying to make it into a business. They try so hard to make their business work, and it's fun. And I like how they actually come to care about the ghosts and try to work with them as well. I think they set that up nicely. And I was trying to think of all the characters. There's so many different characters. You've got those two, and then you've got Jay's sister who shows up, and family
Oh,
members who
yeah.
show up, and then all the ghosts. Like, there's so many ghosts. You got the Thorfinn, the Viking ghost, and Sasapis, the Native American ghost, and like you said, the hippie and the Boy Scout leader and the Revolutionary War soldier. Like, there's just so many, and they do a good
And
job.
the plague ghosts in the basement.
Yeah, right. And the group of plague ghosts down in the basement.
And the 80s teen ghost who was killed by a chainsaw murder.
Right. Yeah, like a slasher movie. It's so good. Yeah, there's just so much going on. They managed to keep them incorporated into the plot and give them all something to do. That's a lot of fun. It's pretty impressive how they write them in and have them active in such short episodes, because these are just like half-hour episodes.
Yeah, but they feel like they're longer.
Yeah.
There's so much depth.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. And I like how they keep introducing new elements of the ghost rules that Jay writes down. It's like, oh, I got to write that down. Like, this is a new thing. That's really fun. Like how the poltergeist can get attached to people instead of the place, and how some ghosts can leave the area of death while most of them are stuck there. And it's funny. And I like how they acknowledge the arbitrary rules, like they can pass through walls but not floors, and they're really playing with this concept and having fun with it, and I appreciate that. But really, the show, it's all about the characters. I mean, they do a good job of setting up plots each week and setting up new conundrums for the characters, but it's about how it affects these people and their relationships. Each of the episodes pushes them to grow either individually or together, and it's just so satisfying to watch. It's really, really well written from that perspective too. I like how they introduce more of the characters' backstories over the different episodes. Like over the course of a season, you learn more about, let's find out what happened to this character in the past. And a lot of times it recontextualizes how you think about that character, or it points to an area of potential growth for them, or both. And I think there's a lot of smart writing going on in this show. Or as light as it appears, there's a lot of work behind the scenes, I think, to make it as good as it is. But overall, I feel like, I think I mentioned this to you before, it feels like these people are our friends. You're watching it.
Yeah.
And and it makes it easy to tune into the next episode. So I'll be sad when it ends. And I hope they wrap it up well.
Well, one of the things I think I like most about this series is that, when we've talked about this before, when we were discussing whether we wanted to add this to our podcast schedule, one of the things I enjoy about this that I don't see in other comedies is that comedies has to do with, pratfalls and human flaws. And a lot of times in shows that I've seen previously, it's just a single person who seems to have the flaws, who's always the butt of the joke. And in this series, that's not the case. Everybody has strengths and everybody has weaknesses. And the comedy comes from each individual's inherent weaknesses, not just one individual. And it all makes sense. It's the character flaws that drive the comedy, and it's the character flaws that drive the plot. And that's, I think, what makes it work for me and makes it truly funny, because it's not just one person being picked on by the writers as the constant butt of the joke, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. It's also the thing that drives the character development, right? It's like you learn about the flaws.
And that it's that growth of the characters, which actually has got me a little nervous for season 5, because the goal of these characters, the dead characters, and what's really interesting about the show is that the main characters really are the ghosts, and Jay and Samantha serve as your everyman characters that we get to watch this through their eyes. They're the ones that interpret what's happening for us, the viewer or the consumer of the story. And so the main characters, the ones who we want to see, the the growth and the development of their character arc are the ghosts. And so the goal of the ghosts is to essentially, I guess, go to heaven. That's the white life that comes and collects them.
Yeah.
And then we learn about halfway through that there is actually a hell, the red light that comes and collects just at least one person.
Yeah.
And by the way, for those who haven't seen this yet, it's somebody that you're happy to see go. So it's not like something bad happens to somebody that you care about. But as we're entering season 5, I'm worrying that, these folks are all going to complete their journeys, even though that's what Samantha says she wants. She wants to help them complete their journeys so they're no longer trapped.
Yeah.
But I think that's going to make potentially season 5 very bittersweet in some ways, if that's the way this goes. It might not. They may leave it as sort of a static ending, in which case I think part of me is going to be kind of happy about that. Because I agree, they are kind of like friends. They're goofy friends who you're kind of like, you care about what's going to happen to them. And, that is a real skill, to make you care about every single person in that house, every single entity in that house. You care about each one of them. And yet they're all individual. They've got their own voice. They've got their own personality. They've got their own foibles. They've got their own goals and aspirations. It's just fascinating and really brilliant writing. I don't own much in the way of comedy series, but this one I think I want to own so that I can watch it whenever I feel like it.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So we love this show. Is there anything that we might change as writers?
Yeah, I was trying to think about it. Globally, it's hard to look back and say something. I guess we'll see what the final season brings us. I'm sure there's things I would tweak in particular episodes. Like, one thing that comes to mind is the teenage ghost gets pulled away, goes to heaven, presumably. And there's really no explanation for why. Like, we don't have an understanding of why that happened.
Oh, you mean the boy?
Is it the boy? I forget now.
Yeah, it's
maybe
the boy.
I'm getting that wrong.
No, she doesn't get sent to heaven. She goes down into the plague ghost's basement, and there's this really cute boy there, and she invites him back to her attic, and then he apparently goes to heaven.
Right. But we don't know why.
I'm assuming it's because he met his goal. He got his desire that was keeping him lingering on the earth, which was to kiss a pretty girl.
Yeah, I guess. I would have wanted something more character development related, if they think. So, yeah. So we'll see where it goes coming up. So little things like that.
The only one thing that I think is, and now again, it's a series, right? And it's a comedy series. And so it's not to be taken too particularly seriously. But it feels like sometimes the characters they experience something that should be a lesson learned for their own personal development, and they don't quite learn it, which I guess is part of the flaw that's keeping them tethered and earthbound. But sometimes I'm like, really, you didn't get that a couple of episodes ago? You learned this lesson and you still didn't get it. So, but again, I think that may go to the flaw and the reality that real people sometimes take multiple lessons before they learn what it is they need to learn. So
yeah, I do know what you're saying, though. I felt that too. It's like, wait, shouldn't this person be moving on now? And I suspect some of that is outside of the show. Like, well, these are our actors. We don't want to fire any of the actors, and we want to keep them employed. Something like that. Or we don't want to lose this character, even though we kind of have them evolving. So I think it's a little bit of those things too.
And I agree. I think that's exactly what's going on. This is an ensemble story, and so you want to keep your ensemble. It's working very well. The chemistry between all of them is phenomenal. Yeah. And so, you don't want to do that. So I think that makes it. You're absolutely correct. It makes it a bit of a paradox. You've got the growth happening, but you can't make it happen completely. Otherwise, you're because of the rules of the story world that you've created. Then you'd have to take away from this ensemble that's working so well.
Yeah, you start dropping them off one by one, and then it just becomes ghost by the end.
Oh God, that's so sad. Okay, so let's talk about themes. Have you pulled any themes from this comedy series?
Yeah, I think there's a lot going on. I mean, certainly if you look at each individual episode and you see how a particular character, or maybe even more than one character, develops, that points to like a theme for that character. But I think there's overall themes as well. I think we see themes like everyone deserves a second chance. That comes up fairly often. Another might be to treat everyone with kindness because you don't know what's happened to them in their lives.
Yeah.
That's come up a few times. Another might be that people's differences can be strengths. We've seen that one a few times. And then, of course, I think an obvious one is the found family aspect, where
Oh, yeah.
people people that you meet in life can become just as important to you as your biological family, which I think
Yeah.
is a big one that goes through the whole series. What about you?
And for me, I kind of looked at the series from a global perspective and from the perspective of what the ultimate goal of these characters is for them to go to heaven. And so the
Yeah.
theme I pulled from it was it's worth it to keep working to achieve your highest self.
Nice. That's a good one.
So what's the takeaway for you from
Do-
Ghosts? What do you
Before we
take
go
away as a writer?
before we go to that, do we
Oh,
want to
yeah.
discuss the UK ghosts at all?
That's a good idea. For those who aren't aware, this series was actually developed in the United States based on a series that was first developed in the United Kingdom. And I only watched a few episodes of that. It didn't really they they were correct that it wasn't, for this particular American audience's taste. But I think you watched the whole thing, yeah?
Yeah, I did.
What did you think of the whole thing?
Oh, I liked it as well. Same thing. It took me a bit to get into it, but then I really enjoyed it for the same reasons. A lot of it's like the individual characters, and it's the same. Like a lot of their flaws and how they grow, and some of the characters are just so funny. I will say overall, I think I prefer the American version. Maybe that's like you said, the targeting to the to the right audience and American sensibilities. I think
Yeah.
like some of the characters are just more likable in the American version. Like the two livings in particular. I think Sam and Jay they're a little nicer and more supportive of each other, and the ghosts, and it makes it a little bit more of a warmer series. The comedy in the UK version is a little bit edgier, I would say. Not a lot; they're very similar, but I would say it's a little bit that way.
And it's funny that you mentioned how it's warmer because even sort of the visuals of the two shows are very different. The American series that is brighter colors
Yeah,
and brighter environments, and the British series is a little bit more gray and with browns and grays and less light, as
yeah,
far as like just scene lighting and set lighting. So it is very interesting the choices that were made.
yeah. That's a good note. I think that's true. Yeah, I really liked all the characters though. I think there's a Robin. He's a caveman character in the UK.
Yeah,
I love that character.
yeah.
It's just so funny. Plus, so the UK version ended. Like they ended the series. I gotta say, I didn't really like the ending of the UK version, so I hope the American version doesn't go that way. Feels like they kind of needed to wrap it up really quick. Like they were told, "Oh, we're going to cancel the series," and they're like, "Oh shoot, we need to come up with an ending," and they just wrote an ending for the final episode. That's kind of how it feels like. It's very abrupt,
Oh dear.
and it
Okay.
felt,
How many seasons was there for that one?
I think, 5 or 6, something like that. They're fairly short seasons too. I think they're even shorter than the American version. But yeah, it felt like, I don't know. It felt like they kind of undermined the main themes of the show in that final episode
Yeah, okay.
because they had to
Okay.
finish it fast. So hopefully the American version doesn't end that way for me anyway.
Okay. Don't tell me.
Yeah. Okay, writing takeaway. I mean, there's a lot
Yeah.
here. I think I'm going to go with something that popped up as I was watching, seeing how they developed the characters. I noticed they would go back to like when the ghost was still alive or when they died, and kind of where they were at and what they were going through at the time. I like that. So that's a lot of backstory, right? Which a lot of times you don't necessarily get into too much in your main story. If you're writing a short story or a novel, you kind of use that backstory, but you don't have to show it all to the reader
Right.
or the viewer. But just having a good character backstory, it leads to how the character currently behaves and views the world, and it also points to how they change over the course of the story. And I think Ghost does that really well. So that's my takeaway.
Actually, mine is exactly the same. These are such well-defined, three-dimensional characters. There was so much work put into developing these characters and understanding what motivates them and how their personalities would respond to very specific situations. it's a master work in character development. I want to be able to do that.
Yeah. Especially with this many characters going on at once.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us as we talked about the comedy television series Ghosts. A huge thanks to our Patreon supporters and all our listeners. Your support, noticed through every like and share, means the world to us. If you enjoyed today's themes, here is a further reading. Michael's Tales of Zara series was inspired by the Arabian mythology of 1001 Nights. Start with the Golden Scarab of Balihar, an enchanting quest that will captivate readers who love magic, wonder, and strong heroines. Links are in the show notes if you're curious to explore more. The Stories Told podcast is on all major platforms. Please like, subscribe, or follow to help us reach more story lovers like you. For book, TV, or movie suggestions, drop a note on our YouTube channel, and that link is in the show notes as well. You can find Michael Grayford at michaelgrayford.com and E.W. Barnes at 1000years.com. Join us next time as we talk about the story told in the movie Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. Thanks so much, Mike. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, this was great. I'm looking forward to Star Trek VI as well.
Yeah, me too. And we'll see you next time on the Stories Told podcast.